It's Tuesday morning in Lagos. Good morning, everyone. And it's the last day of the year 2019. Congratulations, you made it. I am Nifebi Okuntoye. So what has been the highlight of your year? How really would you describe this year for you and your family? Some say it's the breakthrough year. Naira Marley, for instance, blew this year. I hope you blew as well. Well, if you did not blow, don't worry. There is more to come. There's hope in the new year. Yesterday, we started a series on stories that shaped the 2019 for Nigeria. And we kick-started with the fact that 2019 started in earnest in preparation for the big one, the general election, which we saw postponed by a week thereabouts, and it was followed by a lot of reactions trailing that particular exercise. Remember that the land borders were closed later on into the year. The issue of press freedom was rife following the incarceration of Omoyele Sowore, Jalingo, Abiri, and others. And there's quite a lot of things to talk about. Remember the resurgence of xenophobic attacks on Nigerians outside the country, and of course the issues that have to do with economy and a whole lot of sectors. On the show this morning, we'll continue in that light, and I'm joined by member Lagos House of Assembly representing Badagry Constituency 2, Honorable Tonyi David. Good morning and compliments of the season to you.
Good morning.
Thank you for finding time to come.
Thank you.
I also have a colleague here who is a journalist par excellence, Enito Olukotu. Good morning and glad to have you come.
It's a pleasure here.
Let's begin in Lagos, where I believe is a familiar territory for both of you. For the first time since 1999, we had a situation where the incumbent governor could not return for a second term in a state that is run by the APC. It all started like a rumor. What do you think this says about the brand of politics that we run in Lagos?
You know, Lagos is a state of excellence. We are pacesetters. It's not compulsory that a serving governor or a candidate must return. It is the will of the people that matters. At the end of the day, the Lagosians decided that they wanted another governor. And that's just
Lagosians. I don't think it was Lagosians that decided.
Who decided?
It was the party that decided, because if it was a situation whereby the incumbent governor wanted to run for a second term, but he did not get the party's ticket.
Yeah, that is the party. But the Lagosians, the party belongs to the people of Lagos State. And the people of Lagos State decided through the party that they wanted another candidate as the governor for our great party, APC. And that was happened. So what I'm trying to emphasize is the fact that democracy took, its pill as regard what happened during the election, before the general election and after.
As a politician from Badagry, would you say you saw that coming?
You see, yes, to some extent I can say that I saw that coming, because we hearing a lot of wrangling complaints here and there from the people, from the electorates, that too many things. For instance, in my own constituency, our roads were in terrible shape. There was in Badagry, people were clamoring for change. Why? Because the road to Badagry was the worst in the state. Badagry Expressway was in shambles. And those are the things that, are indicators to show that when people wanted something different, because they were not having a good feel of government. So,
were you a lawmaker at the time this happened?
Obviously.
Okay, so we're going to get back to talk about the role that the House of Assembly also played in all of this. But is it a function, is this apparently some people calling the shot, or a matter of party supremacy?
Well, if you look at it, just like every other organization, I think that the leadership of the party actually felt the pulse of the people, and they knew that it will be extremely very risky, for them to fuel the former governor in the race. And the Lagos, if you look at the political climate of Lagos then, so nobody will want to risk a governor who, for instance, dismantle the waste managers, the PSP all across the state. If you recall, that was when we had heaps of refuse all over the states, and the visionscape that they brought in to come and manage the entire system was actually overwhelmed, and he couldn't even solve the problem, and you saw, and there was a danger of epidemic, in the states even then. And if you recall about the land use charge as well, the former governor increased the land use charge, I think about 600% or thereabouts. And you ask yourself, are you in touch with the people? Do you know the implication of certain decisions, that you are making? And a lot of people don't even know, apart from the waste managers, even what do you call it, the Lagos, outdoor advertisers, they had their own share of the impunity of that era. There was a company, a foreign company called JC Decole Grace, that was brought in to displace people that built the Lagos outdoor industry into billions of naira. Today, some of the local indigenous, local outdoor, practitioners, they are still in court, battling with JCT College Grace for allegedly, hijacking their sites, approved sites, and so many other things. So if you look at it, the former governor was the architect of his own misfortune. If he had done very well, the Honorable talked about the issue of roads. It wasn't only in Badagry, even in central Lagos itself, everything was chaotic.
So you're saying that this is not even about the quality of relationship he had with party leaders. It was also a function of his performance.
So even if you have a quality relationship with your leaders, and you are not doing well, you are not relating well, with the base of the party membership and to the electorate, on the larger scale. So nobody will throw you there. See, politics is not, how will I put it? It's not a merry-go-round kind of a venture. It's a very serious problem. They must have done, I want to believe, they must have seen the whole thing and look at the pros and cons that, well, if you feel this guy, we are going to lose. And look at what PDP did. PDP brought another strong, anyway, Agwebu, strong candidates, into the fray. So if you feel that with someone who could not manage waste, with someone who could not, coordinate and harmonize various interests and tendencies, within Lagos political, space. So if you feel such a person, it will just be a walkover for the opposition.
So Lagos said it and did it.
Correct.
Is that a precedence for other states when it comes to instilling party supremacy? We know, for instance, what is happening in Edo State. Are you expecting a repeat of what transpired in Lagos in the Edo politics of 2020 thereabout?
I have to be sincere with you. I'm not very conversant with the legal environment in Edo State. All I know is the little I read in newspapers. My base is Lagos.
But
I
it's
give you
the same party.
But I want to
After
tell you
all.
that Lagos has always I've always been the base setter. We have already been giving other states in every area of life, other states look up to Lagos. So I believe in any state where the governor is not doing well, with the people, with the electorates, with the parties that sponsored him or her, obviously there will, Lagos model.
Honorable, my concern really is, will it eventually be a function of the governor's performance or the party's stance on whether the governor will return or not?
It has always been the function of the governor. The governor was elected
By the
to
people.
serve the people of Lagos State. Party will look for they have their, things that, the requirement they think they can sell that the governor must possess for them to be able to win the election.
Okay.
So those are the issues. When they look at that and say, this person, from all indications, he will do well, based on the promises of our party, based on the programs of our party. But when you get there and you don't do well, they have no choice. They have to manage the situation for you to spend your period and look for a better, option. In order not to jeopardize the interests of the party and the electorate, before the electorates. That's what happened basically in Lagos State.
Let me stay with you for a bit and talk about what has happened in the House this year. So we saw the governor submit the appropriation bill for 2020 sometime early November. and I also spoke with some members who mentioned that they were going to do all within their power to ensure that that bill is passed before the end of the year. You eventually passed the bill yesterday. Were you under any pressure to make that happen under a short period of time?
I want to assure you that the Lagos State House of Assembly is the most vibrant, the most hardworking assembly in Nigeria. The budget was passed yesterday. There was no pressure for anywhere. We did, we worked day and night. You'll be surprised we were there on Saturdays, on Sundays, to ensure that we meet up with the time, the deadline what we set for ourselves. There was no pressure whatsoever. And we are lucky to have a very vibrant and well-informed speaker in the House who presides over the president of the House. So we have no problem in Lagos State House of Assembly. And that was what happened yesterday. The budget was passed without any this thing, but it was a product of hard work.
Are you expecting that the governor will make an assent before the end of the year?
Hopefully. Well, I mean, that's what, hopefully.
And that will be before the end of today.
No, obviously, the budget would have been passed, would have been, transformed to the governor for his assent. We have done our bit, which is to pass the budget, and we took time, look at every areas that we thought, because we are closer to the electorates. There were corrections to be made, there were things that we looked at. At the end of the day, the House passed the budget yesterday.
So I understand the tradition of the January to December cycle and what it means for different agencies to be able to plan accordingly. But do you see or feel some sense of urgency here?
Well, if you look at it, I think, the urgency in passing that appropriation bill is quite apt, considering the volume of work, that the present administration needs to, needs to do in Lagos. If you recall very well that we have a lot of projects, that were underway before the former government was out, of power. So they just need to, they need to get to work as early as possible. And also, if you look at the climate change again, the rainy season and all that, you recall that the governor was complaining about the rains that he couldn't go to work and all that. But the truth of the matter is that with the present reality of global warming and climate change, you only have, I think, about 4 months of dry season. Now, we experienced this year that there was even rain in October, which was quite unusual. So anybody who wants to work, you want to do any major work on the road, so you need to get all the appropriation you need, all the resources available, so that you can get on site and do your work very well. And if you look at it again, looking at the January to December cycle, the most important thing is the budget performance. It's not enough for you to say, okay, I want to start from January to December if your budget performance is at abysmal. So we want to believe that if they can probably move up to, let's say, 70% or thereabout of 80% of budget performance in terms of actual releases, I think they passed about 1.something trillion.
Correct.
So actual releases is the monies that will be released for the work to be done and all that. It is not enough for us to hear high figures for the House of Assembly to work around the clock to get it ready, and probably the governor to assent it, and there won't be monies or high figures for the House of Assembly to work around the clock to get it ready, and probably the governor to assent it, and there won't be monies or there won't be releases, for...
No, trust Lagos, there will be releases.
Yes.
There are even some monies that I don't know whether it is loan or not, that you signed for the governor recently. But let's talk about the efforts of your senior colleagues at the National Assembly. For the first time in a long time, we saw some sort of cordial relationship between the executive and the legislative, which resulted in returning the budget cycle to January to December. What would you say is responsible for this, given how sharply different the Ninth Assembly is from its previous one?
Most times we lose sight of the fact that we have only one government. at the federal, the state government. I mean, we are working together. We are not working across processes. At the federal level, it is a good thing to know that currently we have a very cordial relationship between the executive arm and the legislative arm of government. It's normal. Although one acts as a check over the other, but that doesn't mean they are working in conflict, or they don't live with themselves. For the interest of our people, there must be a cordial relationship between them. But at the same time, we must not lose sight of the fact that the legislative arm of government is, watching the activities, performing oversight function to ensure that the executive arm conform with the law of the land. And that is what we are doing. So it's a good development. I must tell you, we have already had it in Lagos State. Lagos State, some people will say, they used to say some funny things, some like maybe, our relationship with the government is always very cordial. But look at what happened with the immediate past administration. What we are saying in Lagos is that we have a good relationship with the executive arm as long as they conform with the law. And that's the essence of the whole thing. So, and I believe what we are experiencing at the federal level now is a positive development. The Senate, the rep, which is the legislative arm of government, is working, very well with the executive arm of government. Fantastic.
So it's few hours to the new year. Maybe you should put on your prophetic toga. How long will this romantic relationship last? Do you see it outliving this administration, especially as we count down to another general election?
What really happened is that I'm personally worried, about these love affairs, between the executive and the legislature, because if you look at it, it will not enhance in the benefit of the public. For instance, you recall that we heard in the news that 37 billion naira, has been earmarked for the renovation of the National Assembly complex. So you ask yourself, what is really going on? So, and for the presidency, the executive to assent to that in this lean period when everybody is talking about austerity measures, talking about cutting the cost of governance, talking about moving more funds and resources to critical sectors of the economy like roads and education and health. And some people who are less than how many? Less than 500, if I'm right. Talking about taking 37 billion naira, to renovate, not to build another, just to renovate. And so you ask yourself, is it what we should be talking of at this point in time? When we have millions of out-of-school children roaming the street, when our people can access, potable water and quality health care, when a lot of people are when millions of Nigerians are living below $1 a day, and some people who are earning jumbo pay, with all manner of endless allowances. I'm talking about the national, lawmakers, and they are still telling us again that 37 billion naira. So, and I'm not surprised. If you recall too, they approved I think about $30 billion loan request for the executive. So it is now give and take, carrot and stick and all that. So
maybe that is the politics of the romance.
So we should be disturbed.
I want to
disagree
with my colleague.
Yes.
You see, most times people, base their reactions on emotions, on sentiments. With respect to you,
No problem, sir.
there are challenges at that level, and you just hear those figures. Sometimes, when you go to the nitty-gritty of what constitutes those figures, you'll be amazed that they are appropriate, because these are institutions that we need to establish to ensure that they endure. Democracy is just evolving in this country with no respect to us, to every one of us. So let us strengthen our democracy. Let us strengthen our institutions so that these things can last forever. I agree absolutely that there is poverty in the land. I agree absolutely there are challenges. But at the same time, every sector, people just take a particular aspect and blow it out of proportion. But the truth of the matter is that every sector It's been taken care of. For instance, the federal government is doing a lot of infrastructure development all over the state, even though we are not having a feel of it as much as we expected in Lagos yet, because we still expect more support, and that's why we have been clamoring for a special status in Lagos, that being the state of over 20 million people, and being the former capital of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, we deserve special status, and we have been saying that at the national executive, with the executive. We hope that one day we all come to the realization of the fact that we need to assist Lagos, because virtually everybody wants to come and stay in Lagos.
The only thing is that other states will also tell you that they require the same attention.
No, let me correct that impression. Anywhere in the world,
yes,
when you have a place that was federal capital, that is concentration of people there, anywhere in the world, when you move it away, you must provide for it. And just find out, just go and Google it. Any former capital of a country, you must provide special status for them to meet up, because the demand here are enormous, and the state resources cannot meet up with what
I
is needed.
understand your point precisely. So we had a member of the House of Representatives here yesterday who mentioned that this particular loan is going to be received over a period of 10 years, and it's not going to be a one-off loan.
Correct.
And then we also spoke about the importance of proper public education as regards where we're getting this loan from, what precisely are we using it for, and for what period of time will be required to pay it back. The former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, was quite emotional about this, given the role he played in the Paris Fund
reducing our debt.
So he's concerned that if I have gotten some debt relief, why are we getting ourselves back to it? But let us look at why certain people are opposing this particular move. For instance, the 37 billion naira required for the National Assembly reconstruction. A particular member of the House of Reps, Bamidele Salam, of the opinion that apart from the chambers of the National Assembly, which needs some upgrade in the audio and recording system, the entire structure needs no renovation. More than our classrooms, I'm quoting him now, hospitals and roads, which are mostly in terrible conditions. So he's saying, as an advocate of an aggressive microcredit strategy for job creation, I would rather want to see 370,000 small businesses get 100,000 interest-free loan within 12 months, rather than have one edifice swallow that sum within the same period. So the challenge really isn't whether or not we should pay attention to infrastructure and systems. The question is it the priority now, given the economic challenges that Nigerians are faced with?
If I don't have the facts and figures, I seldom try to condemn any government activity. I agree absolutely there are challenges in the land. But what I'm saying is that we need to strengthen our democracy. And what they are putting up is not for just this administration. They're trying to ensure that they have a National Assembly that will endure over a long period. I also agree that our school systems are having challenges. Our secondary schools, all over the country, our education sector is in shambles. We must tell ourselves the truth. But that does not mean we should leave one aspect, especially the issue, because independence of the legislative arm of government is very key to our survival. Look at what's happening in the US. Look at what they are doing for the president. Why? Because the legislative arm of government is independent, absolutely independent. So the president cannot just do whatever he likes, and that's why we are going in Nigeria. So we need to strengthen our institutions. And when you're talking of National Assembly, there are so many institutions there. There are so many, apart from the legislative itself, there are so many institutions that are there, that are strengthened, that the government is using to make things better for us. So I agree we have challenges in the land, but we must not rob Peter. We have to pay Paul.
So, especially when Peter is already overfed, of course, this president.
How do you mean Peter overfed?
A Peter that is earning close, how many millions of naira per month? This Peter at the National Assembly that the Honorable is making reference to, These guys are big and overfed and all that. And again, let me speak about strengthening our institution and demo. I don't believe that spending 37 billion naira on structure, on building, will strengthen the independence of democracy. That complex in which I see, that we watch and have been to, I don't think is structurally distressed as such that it will just come caving,
But
next week.
you don't work there, so
No, I'm telling
you can't
you.
assume that you know.
Look at, okay, I don't work there, but you read that what an honorable said, a member of the House of Assembly,
Of course,
House of Representatives. So we still have few lawmakers with conscience in that hollow chamber that they can even speak truth to power and breaking the ranks among their colleagues and not engage in unnecessary esprit de corps.
It's important that we put it in the right perspective.
Yes,
that
exactly. That
is a PDP member.
Yeah,
He just played to the gallery.
No, of course, he's not playing to the gallery. He's saying the truth.
Okay.
Akin Alabi, I think he's an APC member
In Oyo State.
in Oyo State. Opposed it too. So we have few people who have guts. That forget about all this esprit de corps and we calling black white, just for us to be
But
politically
the budget
correct.
has already been passed now. Is there much you think we can do about it?
Well, actually, we can. There is advocacy already. I understand that some one or two CSOs, is taking it up, with the government. And what we are doing here is part of it too. That is the essence of democracy. In fact, what we are doing here, we are strengthening democracy because if an arm of a government could actually earmark 37 billion naira, and Honorable said that is not privy to the breakdowns of what, I don't know what they want to do. Do they want to put down the entire structure and build another one? Or are they adding more lawmakers? Are they going to, I don't understand. Are they creating new constituencies or senatorial districts or what?
Gentlemen, let's take a break here. And
right.
when we return, we'll open the phone lines and also touch on some other stories that shaped the year 2019. Stay with us and do not go away. Glad to have you joining us on the last day of 2019, and we are taking a look at some of the big stories that indeed shaped 2019 for Nigeria. Honorable Seton G. David is a member of the Lagos State House of Assembly representing the Badagry Constituency 2. Thank you for staying the course on the program.
Thank you.
Eddie Ton Olukotu is a colleague, a journalist who joined us on the show this morning. Glad to have you come.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Let's take a break from the National Assembly. We might return there because we might just return there before the end of this show. Let's look at some other very important issues. So the issue of disobedience of court orders was quite rife in the course of this year. Just this month, I believe that the federal government announced the release on bail of the former National Security Advisor, Sambo Dasuki, as well as the Revolution Now protest convener, Omoyele Sowore. There are talks about journalists. There's Agba Jalingo, there's Jones Abiri. What is your reaction to what appears to be a troubling development in this light?
Well, it is quite troubling, especially for me as a member of the civil society constituency and as a journalist, because it is a sad reminder of what we experienced in the dark days of the military in 1984. The days of Lawa, Rafindadi, where people can be picked up and locked up forever and the keys are thrown into the ocean. So, and that is exactly what, we are experiencing now. So I don't know if you have come across that Punch report of certain people who were reported missing, but mysteriously found in detentions of DSS and security agents. We have the reports there, the names of the people nationwide, where we have people, just being picked up on certain allegations that were often framed, just to keep people out of circulation. And if you look at the invasion of the courts by the men of the DSA, because I've heard a lot of nauseating arguments and defense, from people, from apologies of the government, and even from government functionaries that the DSA did not enter the court, that they were around. And I asked a simple question. If someone scales the fence of your perimeter fence of your home and get into your compound, has the person not invaded your privacy, or is it until the person gets into your bedroom? And also, we saw, these men inside the court struggling with with Omoyele Sowore, wrestling him to the ground. And another thing we heard again, that it was all drama. And I don't know when Omoyele Sowore and co now turned to Baba Suwe, and they have taken another career in acting, that they couldn't find any suitable scene or location to go and do their acting rather than the court premise. So we have seen, and even after the release, the government came up that they only released them, and Dasuki, who has been in detention since 2015, and he has been released. I think there were 5 court judgments, including one from ECOWAS court, that Dasuki should be released. But this government said, well, the national security supersede rule of law. I haven't heard that before. Who will define national security? Is it an interested party that will define if someone has run foul of national security? So these are all decoys. These are all, excuses to keep people down, and to muzzle the voices of the people. And look at the dead on arrival speech.
We're going to get there. So is this
so
a situation where
all these things are working in concert?
There isn't much that Nigerians understand about this issue, because he's painting a very black picture, right? And then you begin to question whether people who are in power really do not understand the rule of law. Could there be a reason why all of this that had happened in the course of the year that perhaps Nigerians are not aware of?
I'm very much at home with what he has said. It's unfortunate for our system, because you can never have peace without justice. And just like you rightly put, if an interested party cannot determine what is right, it is the court that is the arbiter that will determine, interpret our laws. So if you don't have justice in this system, we have no place, nowhere, and nobody will respect us. So what is happening, it does not promote democracy, but at the same time, we must also be mindful of the fact that the peace of this country is also very key. But there's no peace without justice. So we must, and those in government cannot, think they are above the law. We must, but we also need our judiciary to be up and doing, so that they dispense justice as quickly as possible, instead of holding people down in incarceration for so long. So I agree with him that we must obey the law, both government and the governed. We must all be operating within the ambit of the law of the land. It's very important for us to have peace.
We heard the Attorney General say that.
And I remember the case, the statement made by Frank Fano several years ago, that the future will have no pity for those men who possess a exceptional privilege of saying the word of truth to their oppressors, but instead have taken refuge in attitude of passivity, of motive indifference, and sometimes of cold complicity. We must stand up against injustice at whatever stage, because we don't know tomorrow. If you are privileged to be in government today, you don't know, you may live there tomorrow, and the same law will catch up with you.
Exactly.
That is why we must always promote justice at any point, and that's what we stand for in Lagos State House of Assembly.
So when the news of Dasuki and Showore's release came up, Nigerians were quite excited, and there was this thought that perhaps we're going to see some form of change. The fact that the Attorney General said that this release was made on compassionate grounds, does it tell you that things are going to change for the better in the new year?
It's not. I disagree with him completely, because you cannot. The court is the final arbiter until you take it to another higher court. Once the court releases a person, the government has no choice but to release that person. unless unless we are working in the jungle. And now we are Nigeria into the jungle. So that is why I want to disagree with him that if you are saying he's doing favor, you are not doing anybody any favor. This thing has been taken to the court, and the court has made pronouncement on the matter that this person should be freed, and so be it. So freeing that person does not, you are not doing anybody any favor. You are not doing the person any favor.
You're only obeying court orders.
Correct.
Exactly.
Okurafo is called in from Arochukwu in Abia State. Good morning, Okurafo.
Good morning, Sir Nixon. Good morning, the Honorable. Good morning, our journalists. Good morning, gentlemen. Compliments of the season.
Good morning,
Mazi.
Compliments of the season.
Good morning. Honestly speaking, gentlemen in the studio, our budget is okay for the passage, pass mark for our honorable members. But the borrowing for the implementation of that budget or to sustain it is not healthy economically because it will also still affect our unemployed youth economically. On our educational sector, ASU based on federal government marriage is still shaking up to today and it's entering 2020. We don't know whether the marriage is on the rate of divorce or separate. We don't know. Only God will answer that one for us. Now let's look at our universities for the year 2019 and we are entering 2020. You have seen what Jam said, that come 2020, that no national ID card, no Jam. And they will bring drone to monitor, which is very, very good. At least to help curtail exam malpractice in this country. Very, very good. But the question there is this now, how many parents have registered their SS3 students who will be writing these exams now? Statistics have shown that up to 70 or 65 to 70 students have not gotten their national ID card, which is a problem there. And this is 2019. By the grace of God, less than 12 hours will be entering 2020. Now, what is the fate of such students? Now, even the drone, the jam are saying, fine. But you know that I don't know whether they're going to bring this noiseless brand of Zoom or that noisy one. Because I don't know whether they're going to use it inside the hall or outside of it. But to me, it's still expensive. I would have suggested for jam to use that money and go to local government and build jam CBC centers. It will help us so that the number of students and the number of days they use the writing jam data should be only one day. All the centers, everybody will write the exam and so not visit the exam to 1 week or 5 days. It's not ended. Now we come back home, it has our thank God for what the federal government said about security. That first quarter of 2020, that no more of this having to go back to the border. It's good. But the thing is this, the local government authorities should make use of all these neighborhood wars and vigilante groups now. Call the police people to come and train to use. Let the local government pay them. Our honorable senators name them to bring in money and open a fund so that the youth there in that their local area will be part and parcel. They will be paying them to maintain security in our government. Thank you very much. Please extend our visits to Oga Yori and his family and you too. May God bless you all. May your tongues have a full laughter. God bless all of you. Have a beautiful 2020. God bless you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for calling in. Some said preparations and campaigns for 2023 kickstarted earlier in 2019. You'll be amazed that we actually saw posters and there were talks about which geopolitical zones should field the next president. Would you say that was too early a discussion to have had this year?
Obviously, it's too early. We just finished the election. We just been sworn in, and it is the performance that of those in the active participants now that will determine what will happen in 2003. But that being said, the issue of geopolitical zone, power must shift from the north to the southwest of this country. That's what we are clamoring for, because everybody must have a feel of the presidency. It's very germane in this instance, and we believe that the southwest of this country was produced the next president.
Okay, so but there are people who would also tell you that there are about 6 geopolitical zones. So it's expected that power shifts to the south, no doubt. But we have the northeast, the southeast, and the north central that are yet to produce leaders since 1999.
Well, if you look at it, the power equation in Nigeria is often between the south and the north. So the demarcation or the further stratification of north into northeast, northwest, and north central, is not often a valid argument, as far as the power sharing or rotation is concerned. And if you look at it, I think those people who are drumming, ahead of 2023 now, in the same year that a government that has a 4-year tenure, was just sworn in, they are just having a nice time. They are only feeling good because
but you are the politician. If you're going to be truthful to
a lot of
us,
events,
yes.
A lot of events will actually shape 2023. It's too early in the day.
Let me hold you for a minute. Is Akeem still there from Osogbo? All right, so we'll get back to that subsequently.
So if you look at it, it is rather too early because a lot of things, there will still be alignment and realignment of forces all across, political divides. Because politics is all about interest and politics is all about contestation of forces. And there are so many interests now that have not been served. There are so many expectations that will be dashed, ahead of 2023. And in fact, I even see another party, another big political party, in the offing ahead of 2000. It is not impossible.
Let's take Okafor's call. He's called in from Oka. Good morning, Okafor.
Good morning.
Good morning. You're welcome. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Yes. Hello?
We can hear you clearly. Go ahead with your contribution, Okafor.
Hello, I can hear you clearly.
But I can hear you. All right, we'll fix that and then get back to you subsequently. You are the politician, so you should be truthful with us. Is it actually too early? We're told that politicians kickstart their campaigns the very first day they resume office. Everything they do has to do with staying or perpetuating themselves in office.
Just like you rightly said, we just won an election. We just been sworn in. This is 2023. We should perform. What our people are yearning for is
performance.
And let's do that and live 2023.
After all, it is your re-election is based on the performance.
Obviously.
Okay.
So why don't we, put our hands together and get the welfare of our people in perspective. Provide the greatest good for the greatest number of people. And on the basis of that, they will not judge us for 2023. But in principle...
We're still saying the same thing, Honorable.
Yeah.
So even when you are performing so that people can vote you.
Obviously, but
it's still campaign.
But that should not be
campaign strategy.
That should not be at the front burner.
All right.
Telling people that you are talking of 2003 at this time is not good enough. But that notwithstanding, we must... we have been saying that basically this country is divided into two, north-south. The north is in the office now. So we believe the next president should come from the south. Let
me hold you briefly to take this call from Kaduna. Good morning, Honorable Fidelis.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. My contribution is just this. This government, yes, right. Presidents have been opposing it right from the start. Yes, even myself, even right from the time I contested under All Progressive Grand Alliance, which is AFGAN. However,
we can hardly hear you. You're sounding so far away now, Honorable. Well, we might have to fix that and then get back to that call subsequently. It's been an interesting year thus far, given the election we had. But amazingly, we also had some pockets of election later on in the year. And the expectation was high that INEC and every other stakeholder would have fine-tuned the process. But that was not the case. At Bayelsa and Kogi, we were shocked to see the level of violence that rocked that particular exercise. You recall that after the postponement of the general election earlier in the year, the INEC chairman had said that we need to, after this process, we need to sit down and talk and review the laws. How far away do you think Nigeria is in getting it right when it comes to the electoral process from what you've seen this year?
Well, it appears that the electoral umpire INEC, does not have the capacity, to actually deliver on its promise of giving us credible election. Look at what happened, in Kogi State. It was an electoral travesty. I haven't seen that before, since all the years I've been monitoring elections. You see a situation where, in a broad daylight, the thugs will come and invade a place, and even probably, and we saw helicopter too. I don't know how true is that. Helicopter shooting and the people running at scatter on the day of election. And, and I'm not too happy with the way, Mr. President received the beneficiary of that process, which is the Governor Yaya Bello, when he said he has run a good race. I don't believe Yaya Bello ran a good.
Let me hold you shortly to take Lois' call from Lekki. Good morning, Lois. Hello, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Please go ahead with your contribution.
Just want to say that if there's anything I need to shape or to have credible election in Nigeria, number one, the INEC empire, we should look at it very critically. If anything goes wrong with our election in Nigeria, it's in the hands of the INEC. They have put as electorate. We know very clearly that there are a lot of fraudulent activities during election in this very year. I was happening in another part of the country during the presidential election and the parliament election and all the rest of them. Every Nigerian knew that the election was badly rigged. And the INEC were so conscious of that.
Lawrence, I'm sorry, the quality of your call is neither here or there. We could hardly make sense of what you're saying. You may have to call us back. So he mentioned the president, and then I'm wondering, does the president determines whether an election is or not based on his comment? Is this a problem that you think lies at the table of Mr. President?
But my own point is this, before I answer that question directly. The greatest challenge you have in this country is the constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Our constitution is not a good constitution. And people have been clamoring for revisiting that constitution, but we are just paying lip service to it. Until that constitution is revisited, Nigeria will remain like this forever. I can assure you that. Because desperation for power to become the governor, to become the president, will persist. I'm sure if you have seen the copy of 1979 Constitution, it's far better than what you have now. So we need to address that, but we are running away from it. Nobody wants to. If we mention it, people will say, no, it's not the Constitution, it is the Constitution. Because there is so much people, the desperation for office is getting worse by the day. So we need to address that. Directly answering the question, of course, the president have no choice. The election have been conducted, and they have given the...
And his party won.
And somebody has won.
Let's take this conversation to Benin in Edo State. Good morning, Victor.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Okay, my first time of calling in the show. I really want to appreciate you guys for the job you're doing.
Thank you.
I want to comment on the events and news that shaped 2019 in Nigeria, particularly in Edo State. Now, I want to say, I believe the presidency is keeping mute on some relevant issues that need to be attacked head on. For example, we have an honorable member of the House of Assembly in Lagos, your studio right now. A situation where a constituency elects somebody to represent them in the House of Assembly, and that particular individual, because of their political difference, decides to sit out of office for a period of time without considering whether his constituency is being represented fully or not. It's appalling. And I want to also call on fellow Nigerians to start asking questions. With programs like this, you can actually ask questions. You could come out on your own and start asking questions. In 2022, we should start asking whether we should engage the government with reasonable arguments. And still need to look at.
All right.
You understand? So I believe Nigerians should start asking questions, and I want to really appreciate you guys for the job you're
Thank you,
doing over
Victor,
there.
for
Thank
calling
you
in
very much.
from Benin. So they're dragging you back to Benin again. I mean, to Edo State. But I think the point here would be the fact that we saw the losses incurred by your party during the general election in states like Rivers and Zamfara, where there were court orders that actually took your party out completely from those areas. Don't you think that you must have learned a lot of lessons to now begin to pay more attention from the top to issues like what is happening in Edo State?
Yes, that is the beauty of democracy. I said there are three arms of government. And because APC is a law-abiding party, we obey the court, and at the end of the day, just like you rightly put, nothing happened in those states. And we are learning from it. You see, I said something earlier that what's happening in those states is a function of, our grand norm. I mean, the number one law, of this country, which is the Constitution. If not for those challenges that we have there, what is happening currently wouldn't have taken place. So, but I believe they will get over it before the election, and things will get normalized.
Let's quickly take our final caller on the show. Joshua from Iredwale in Ogun State. Good morning, Joshua.
Good morning, Nifemi.
Glad to have you call.
Good morning to your guests.
Yeah, good morning, Joshua.
Yes, I think we should be talking about money sharing rather than power sharing. I think the real problem in this country is how to share money. We're not really looking at leadership. We're looking at resource sharing, and that has been our problem. So going to 2020, are we going to be looking at national leadership or sharing money between the South and the North? Let the major ethnic groups, Southwest, North, East, know that there are other minority groups in Nigeria. Nigeria is not three tribes. So the earlier we begin to speak towards having a nation, the better for us. And on human rights, please, I beg of us, in 2020, I think we should begin to look at the quality of our words that we put in public space.
All right, Joshua, I think that's your time. I'm so sorry. We'll talk again next year, trust me. Finally, we need to go now. It's pretty hard to rate how Nigeria has fared in the outgoing year, but what would be your final take on this particular issue?
What I will say in essence is that, I want Nigerians to be hopeful. We need to be optimistic. The truth of the matter is that the outgoing year, or the year that is, passing today, has not really been a very good year in certain respects. In terms of the economy itself, if you look at it, I don't think we did well, in terms of economy, and in terms of the human rights. If you look at the human rights records, of this present government, it is not that impressive. Ditto for so many other things. But the truth of the matter is that, the government needs to do more. And now that they have freed Showore and Dasuki, I want to call on the government of Cross River State, the governor of Cross River, Ben Ayade, to free Agbajalingo too.
All right.
Even if it will be on compassionate grounds.
We have to go now.
So we are appealing to him.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the program and for your contribution. Honorable Setonji David. What does Setonji mean? Very quickly.
Setonji. The will of God will prevail.
Wow, beautiful. Member, Lagos House of Assembly, it's a pleasure to have you come on the program today.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, I wish you the same. It's our last show for the year. Thank you for being a part of it. We appreciate your commitment over the years, and be sure that we're poised to even serve you better in the new year. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.